Hey, what's up, everybody? Bruno here. College football on tap, week 4. Here we are. Ross, welcome back. How you doing, man? How's your week?
Uh, it's been long. It's been exhausting. Major life moves have been made and things acquired, which will be announced shortly in the future. But I'm ready for some football, make some money. Already off to a nice little start after yesterday.
Yeah, it's always good to hear that big things are happening. Obviously, you'll talk about it when you want to talk about it, but I'm happy for you and everything that you're doing, and it'll all work out in a couple weeks for you. It'll be great. Um,
Yeah, the hint for everyone will be the set and background is slowly going to change over the next few weeks. So.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about moving outside today. The lighting in the basement sometimes like it's kind of messy, but it doesn't look too bad today. So I decided to stay inside still, but we'll see. Maybe next time. Yeah. So since last time we joined you, we weren't able to get a show in earlier this week. We've been having people sick and getting their teeth pulled out, and it's just been a mess for everybody on college football on tap lately. But last week we finally got to see the beginning of Arch Manning as a quarterback in college football for Texas. Unfortunately, it comes at an injury for Quinn Ewers, but Arch Manning looked really good last week. Gonna get his first start today. What do you think so far about the I can't even what's the best wording for Arch Manning in the Manning dynasty legacy?
Yeah, I will say the first thing that I think definitely caught my eye was last week a few clips. It's weird seeing a Manning with some wheels.
Yeah, I know, right? That was my first thought as well. Like, oh my, he could run. Peyton and Eli didn't do that. Peyton definitely didn't do that.
Like, I mean, his grandpa could run. His grandpa was noted as that being one of his skills, but it's weird to see it jump a couple generations and then suddenly come back. But hopefully, he doesn't have to use those wheels very frequently. But I think it's kind of a deadly attribute that he's got those if he needs them. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that they definitely had to be working on with him, just seeing in general what way football is going. It kind of seems like even in the pros, the old-fashioned sit in the pocket quarterback is kind of going away. You got to be able to move around a bit and be mobile. So I'm sure that's something that they've been working on with Arch for many years and his various quarterback camps and having his uncles that he does and the grandfather that he does. I mean, he's had plenty of ears, but seeing how football in general is going, especially like even watching college football, every quarterback's got to move for the most part. Nobody's got that ability to just sit in the pocket. I mean, you being mobile is like the difference maker and like kind of like we're seeing with Caleb Williams and the Bears right now. Caleb Williams makes certain passes in college football that you're not making in the NFL because the players are better, the speed is better. But if you're mobile in college football and you could just run around in the backfield for 20 seconds, you're going to find someone open eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so today he's going to get his first start against Louisiana Monroe. Kind of Louisiana Monroe is undefeated coming into this one, but obviously not the best competition that Texas is going to be facing this year, being in the SEC now. And I know that they have some big matchups coming up in the coming weeks. I think Oklahoma's 2 weeks away. But yeah, I think this is going to be a good chance for Arch to kind of get his footing set in as a starter. I don't know how long Quinn Ewers is really going to be out. It's kind of a question mark right now for Texas.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a tune-up game. I think for him, I think it's more for him to. I'm not touching that spread because I thought that was ridiculous for this, and that's not a shot at Arch. But I think this is definitely like a warm-up, learning, go out there, run the offense, everything like that is pretty much what you're gonna get out of this game. Just in case Quinn is out longer than they think, I think Arch is probably going to play longer than you think he is. I think they're going to get him in there, just let him run the offense, just like his uncles, and just get the reps, the live reps out there as much as possible to prep just in case he needs to be in there longer than we think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I did not see with the spread. It's not coming to me as something that really registered. I didn't look at it. What was it that
The
you saw?
spread was like 44 and a half.
Okay. Yeah. That's a big number. I mean, but from what we saw when he came in the game last week, I mean, he was able to just put up numbers right away. So it is very possible that happens. But yeah, I tend to stay away from those big numbers in general. It's just not my style of betting, and I have a hard
As
time
of
watching that.
as of right now, it is 44 and a half.
Yeah, that's a big number. A lot of times I would take if I were to do something like that, I would normally take all those points, just saying all they gotta do is really stick around after the first quarter, and we're okay. But I don't know if that'll happen today. I was actually looking. There's a parlay out there that someone put, and I think it's a pretty good idea where you take like the first quarters of all the major teams that are playing, like Texas versus Louisiana Monroe. There was one noon game that's like a Ohio State versus Marshall. Take Ohio State versus Marshall at like -10 in the first quarter. Take Texas at -10 in the first quarter. And then there was two more teams that I can't register, but like it ended up being like a plus 1300 parlay. And I'm like, against these bad schools, like not bad schools, but schools that don't get the talent that obviously the major programs do, it would be a pretty good idea to kind of look into that. So I might be taking something along those lines today.
Yeah, I spent this morning cooking up a few things, so we'll definitely get to it towards the end of the show. But there was one that I teased myself with for a while, and I just finally did it. So we'll offer it later. But
All right, cool. Yeah, Jason's already asking. He needs a 3-4 leg parlay to sweat today as he works on his house. And then my buddy Marcus from work, checking out the show. Uh, he's already got a parlay or not a parlay, just a bet in general for two Donovan Edwards touchdowns today for Michigan, and he boosted it to like plus 960, and I think he put like $100 on it. So could be a big payday. So we'll be rooting for you there on that one, Marcus. But yeah, we'll get into the betting a little bit later on. Um, but yeah, any last minute thoughts before we get to see Arch Manning in his first start at the University of Texas?
just don't get hurt.
Yeah, I think we could all agree on that. Um, Last night we had Nebraska versus Illinois in a ranked versus ranked matchup. Uh, that really, I mean, we were talking about beforehand. It surprised you the outcome. It surprised me the outcome. But what a hell of a football game.
Yeah, that was my win. To start off the week, I did have Illinois with the at +8. Um, I know we talked a little bit before. There's just something about Bielema's boys, all his teams, when they are playing well, they usually keep their nose in the fight. I thought it was probably going to end up being a good game where they'd hang in there and keep it to one score. So I definitely jumped on that 8. I did not expect the outright win though, which is just incredible for that program, and woof for Nebraska, looking like they were on their way back up.
Yeah, I honestly I was looking beforehand. I saw notes that this was Nebraska's 400th consecutive sellout. So the fans, like, despite all these years that just not being the program that they were back in the early 2000s and even the 90s of our life, um, like these fans are still showing up for them. And I thought really this was going to be a win, a statement win for them. And it ended up going the other way, and like you said, like Bielema's boys, like they come ready, and he's really started to turn that program on its head. And I really am interested to see where Illinois goes from here now, because I thought the talk was going to be about Nebraska today.
Yeah. But I know we talked a little bit about this is kind of what U of I brought Bielema in to do. And he's right on pace with what you would expect to turn a program like that around. Like, he's going in. This is what, year 4 of him being there.
Um,
It's
is it?
year 3. It's year 3 or
I think
4.
it's
But
3, but
but
yeah,
this is like right around the time you would expect something. Traditionally, you would see a season like this start to develop, and right now it's lining up.
yeah, and I mean it's not going to get any easier for them going forward. Next week is Penn State for them, so uh, the big teams keep on coming, and I think honestly, I'd have to double check. I think they got
But
Michigan and
but,
Texas
but
coming, or
also, I'd say also in his defense, I'm pretty sure Bielema already has a W against Penn State with U of I.
um, yeah, yeah,
I
he
think
does.
that I think that
And
was his I think that was his first year there that they took him down in Happy Valley in overtime.
yeah, I remember that game. So yeah, and he's getting them again next week. I is that game is at Penn State again, and there is no time yet for that game, so they
That
can
might
make that
be
a night game where
that
that could
that
be
might
dangerous.
be that flex.
Yeah, so we'll see what they end up doing with
Hon-
that.
Honestly, depending how high U of I jumps in the rankings this week, they may flex that to one of the CFB night game or not, because that would at that point potentially be one of the better ranked matchups on TV.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even just kind of looking forward, they got Michigan and Oregon back to back after a week against Purdue. So their next 4 games, they play 3 ranked opponents, and they already are the only team in college football this year, small sample size, to have 2 ranked opponent wins now after last night's win against Nebraska. So I mean,
And
the
then
schedule's
I could
crazy.
see we got Jason here with, does Nebraska stay ranked? Absolutely not. Not with how far down they were.
Yeah, I would not see that being something that would happen. And I mean teams that are in the 20s generally, I mean, no matter who they lose to, they normally get knocked out unless it's late in the season and you've seen a bigger table size at work. So um
Yeah.
they could definitely get back in there, but it's going to be a recovery week for the Cornhuskers for sure, because I thought that they thought they were getting this, and I did see like another stat that it was like their 2,926th day since Nebraska has last beat a ranked opponent. They've lost 26 straight games against ranked opponents, so it's just can't get over the hump there yet for Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, this just didn't go the way we all thought it would. I still think Nebraska is going to finish the season well. I still think they're going to be a competitive team overall, but did not see this one playing out. I thought this was going to be a big W for Nebraska moving forward. But then again, they have Dylan Raiola. I think they're going to be just fine, and this is just the beginning of a resurgence for them. But definitely thought this was going to be a big W moving forward for them, but instead it flips and it goes to U of I.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. David Kriska there with coming in. It is his 4th season there, so you were correct. And like I have the hardest time with time as I've gotten older. It's just like everything seems like it was last week. Like I'm sitting there thinking like Maurice Jones-Drew was a running back in the NFL 5 years ago, and it's been forever. It's just something I was talking about yesterday, and it's still happening now. As it seems like Lovie Smith was there last week.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, we'll see. Next week, Illinois Penn State will be a huge one to kind of look into for sure. Um, any last thoughts on Illinois or Nebraska going forward?
Not at this time. Let's see what these rankings show and hopefully set up for a good matchup with Penn State now.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of want to get into it since we didn't have the ability to talk about it at all on a recap show this week. Toledo getting a huge upset victory last week against Mississippi State, giving the MAC another huge win. This time against an SEC school, and it wasn't close. Uh, I feel like we're just rearing up right now for one of the greatest collisions in the Kelb for homecoming for NIU to Toledo right now. Like I don't want to be future uh thinking too much ahead in the future with with the NIU program and whatnot, but I think, and I'm thinking more in terms of the MAC, we need NIU and Toledo both to be undefeated when that homecoming game happens. I think it's October 19th.
And I think it's very important to note that this isn't just like being NIU homers or anything. This is the fact that that very much becomes a playoff potential matchup, that one of those two, the winner of that game, has the best chance to grab that number 12 spot at the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not used to doing this, but like I'm rooting for Toledo out. I'll even give you a sneak peek. I'm putting Toledo on my card today. Um, but yeah, I just think after seeing what they were able to do, like I thought Toledo had a shot at winning. I know how good their program is. They've been consistent. I would even say more consistent than NIU has been over the span of the time since we attended the school. Just Toledo is always in the top three in the MAC, no matter what. They always have a program that wins 9 football games. It seems like I can't remember them winning like 8 football games. It's just they're always good. Um, but for them to come out there and just manhandle Mississippi State a week after NIU pulled off the upset that they did, it's great to see one of the little guys, a little conference, come out there and start like making people be like, damn, I can't wait for those Tuesday nights in November.
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things to that addresses this is the transfer portal. It's
Yeah.
the fact that with the transfer portal, you don't have the guys sitting out anymore. You have these guys at the big SEC, ACC schools that are number 3 and 4 on the depth chart that come to places like NIU and Toledo, and they're number 1. And they are an immediate playmaker because they have that caliber to play in that big conference. But they come here and they're the number 1. But when they match up against teams from those big conferences, they have the talent to play there already, or they already played there. They just took a step back to make a better decision for their career and get more time. So a lot of cases, you're getting these smaller schools that have the talented players that took a step back just to play more and expose themselves for future opportunity. So I think it's going to be a lot moving forward. I don't think it's going to be necessarily as much of a surprise when like a mid-tier conference like the MAC goes into these big places and holds their own.
Yeah, I honestly, it was earlier this week. I was kind of thinking about it, how the transfer portal and the way that college football is just shaping up, because this seems like it's going to be the craziest year of college football we've ever experienced. Like it has that feel to it already, but it's starting to kind of feel like college basketball has always felt. Like, because they've always had, I mean, we always have those mid-tier schools. We've seen the runs of teams like Loyola Chicago, Bradley, the Wichita States. Like, we've seen these schools that have gone to Elite Eights, Final Fours, and no one expected these schools to ever be there. But because of what college basketball is in terms of the ability to grow your team, which a lot of those mid-tier schools, that's what they do, is they get juniors and seniors, and then those top tier schools get all the freshmen, and the juniors and seniors that played together for 3-4 years end up being able to punch the freshman kids that are the 5-star recruits in the mouth because they've had that experience together. I think we're seeing that in college football now too, which is making this a lot more exciting. That's what NIU's precedent is based off of right now, is they have more
They're,
in-house
they have
guys that haven't
30.
left.
Yeah, they have 30 players that are either in their 4th or 5th year in that program.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's what's making college football so much more exciting, is that it has kind of found a way to get that college basketball field when, I mean, I don't think there's a better time in the world than watching March Madness. Like, it's the most fun time of year for me. And now we're getting that feel with college football with the playoff and the transfer portal. And it's craziness. It's hard to keep up with all that's going on, but that's what we're seeing. And I think that's why it's so exciting to look at the MAC and what's going on there, and what the possibility of Toledo and NIU and what that matchup future in the future could be.
Yeah, I mean, we need to. We'll pump the brakes a bit because NIU's got to handle some business with Buffalo, a good Buffalo team today, and then we head to Raleigh next week to take on NC State and Coach Doran.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this game today, for NIU, I said it last week. I am so glad they had the bye week after Notre Dame. They were able to get that win against Notre Dame, and now they got that bye week, and uh, it gives them a moment to breathe, reset, enjoy the win, but reset, and now come out there and handle business today, which I hope they are able to go out there and do. And I mean, looking ahead, like at NC State next week, even too. I'm kind of surprised to see the line with them and Clemson today. I don't know if you've looked at it, but I'm like, wasn't NC State ranked to begin the season?
They were.
Yeah, I mean, just an interesting line as we're looking at plus 18 in that game today with Clemson, and I just think that that's crazy
And
what we've seen from Clemson.
I think at one point during the week it was pushing 21.
Yeah, I honestly wish I would have found it then. I mean, obviously take all the points you could get, but or at least looked ahead because I didn't really look at anything till yesterday in terms of the betting wise. But yeah, we saw Clemson look like they were little boys playing Georgia a couple weeks ago, and Georgia almost lost to Kentucky last week. So I don't know who they really truly are at this point. I know they could play defense, but um, they manhandled them on offense as well out there. Clemson coming in as a huge favorite in what is last week they didn't have what we would consider a real opponent to really scare them into anything. Like it's surprising to see NC State coming in as such a huge underdog today against Clemson.
Yeah, absolutely. I did take NC State on the points. Only because of that matchup in general. I think NC State is still a hungry team. I think they're still a talented team. Coach Doran always has had a talented squad. I mean, not a lot of coaches have a tenure like him in college football. And it's because he just consistently puts out a good product and a decent team. That, I mean, clearly they're still waiting for that big breakout season, but it's not like he's done anything wrong there. They're consistently 9-3, 8-4, and so on every year. He's just churning out a good product. Where I think that I did take NC State today on the points. I think they're gonna hold it. They're gonna give Clemson a run. It's a big game for them always every year anyway. So
Yeah,
little shocking on the number.
yeah, I mean, I'm honestly like I was sitting there thinking because you know you always see these crazy parlays that people make that make them huge amount of money off of very little wagers. So I was actually looking at making my first ever like $10 three underdog money line but like big teams. And I was thinking NC State money line as part of this crazy bet just to see if something crazy could come together as one of those teams. Like I'll get into it more later, but I wouldn't be surprised if North Carolina State wins this football game just off of what we've seen so far, even with Clemson. I mean, granted, small sample size, tough first game of the year against Georgia, but they didn't look like a team that belonged on the same field as Georgia.
Yeah. So we'll see how that one plays out later this afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. And we kind of transitioned into that, I did want to go into one more thing about the MAC, and that's of course a MAC school going into South Bend again today, with the same point spread that NIU went in to Notre Dame 2 weeks ago with. Miami, Ohio is coming in as a 28-point underdog in the South Bend. How does Notre Dame respond to a MAC school coming in with the exact same spread that they lost to a team 2 weeks ago?
I'm expecting the starters to play the whole game and Notre Dame to attempt to annihilate any hope that Miami of Ohio has today.
Yeah.
I think that's your only play, because if you don't, I know coaches typically never pay attention to the numbers and the spreads. They are going to attempt to eliminate any mention of anything that happened 2 weeks ago at South Bend. That they are going to make that they are going to have 28.5 is on their board. They're going to make sure that they win this game by 40.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially after what we saw from the Irish last week against Purdue. Uh, I don't know if it's whatever the conversation that Hammock and Freeman had with each other about how NIU beat them, what they did different, but like Notre Dame came out there last week ready to go, and they did not leave any thought of Purdue ever standing a shot at that football game. I mean, those Purdue kids looked like they were battered and bruised at the end of that game. Uh, and I expect to see the same today, as this is Notre Dame's second home game, and that loss definitely woke them up, and they ain't gonna let a MAC school come in there and do this again. Um, I just still have like this weird like nugget in my brain though. I'm like, what if it did happen?
If it did happen again, Freeman's so on the hot seat, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's even close, like it's another game where people are like, "Why did you only beat them by 14?" Like, I think it's kind of an expected thing where if they don't win by 30 plus, like people might be really upset. Like I said, I don't really bet these big point spreads, and I don't have this on my sheet today, but there's a good chance that I do make something with that spread line in there, maybe even a few more points added on to it, just because I think Notre Dame's going to come out there and they're going to beat them down. And Brett Gabbert, I'm sorry, like not going to be a good day for you in the backfield, my friend.
Yeah, just I think they have no choice but to absolutely annihilate them today.
Yeah, and honestly, I know we talk a lot of Notre Dame here, but that's all we got to talk about Notre Dame today. Like we'll move on. So,
Yeah.
um, the big matchups today. First one that obviously I think is going to have the most focus, and it's earlier on in the day. We got USC and Michigan. Um, Michigan isn't the team that won the national championship last year. Uh, New coach, new quarterback, new everything for the most part. I know our buddy Marcus here is all over this Michigan stuff today from what I've seen. So, and I already told him like I don't like Michigan's chances today with USC, just because of what Michigan is right now. But what are your thoughts? What are you expecting to see today out of this USC Michigan game?
So ding ding ding. Weekend riders alert. Game one on my card. I have SC on the points.
Yeah, it's on my card too.
I I'm sorry to I love Big Ten football. I do not include USC in the Big Ten. I never will. This is old man yells at cloud moment. But I do not trust anything they have going on there right now at Michigan. They are clearly trying to figure out something to make this season work, like switching to Alex Orgy, switching quarterbacks, trying to figure out whatever. I don't think that's going to make a difference this week. I think USC is coming in there to make a statement, running on all cylinders. I actually looked at alternate lines for USC to just try to boost the card a little bit. I ended up just staying at the 4.5 that was being offered, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this end up being at least a 2-score win for USC at the Big House.
I could not agree more. Honestly, like you were preaching to the choir here, because I am feeling the same way where it's just like I would like kind of Michigan to win the football game because of the fact that it's Big Ten football, and I don't also think USC, that's not Big Ten football. I don't want to see these West Coast teams come in here and be beating down on what normally the best in the Big Ten would have to offer. I mean, that's just going to be my sentiments for pretty much ever in terms of USC and the UCLAs and whatnot being inside the Big Ten conference. But I don't see from what I have seen from USC so far this year, they look like they've turned the tide a little bit defensively, which you have to in order to win in the Big Ten. Uh, I just think this is USC going to come into the big house. It's the first time in 60 years that they have come into the big house, and I think it's going to be a long day for Michigan. I just don't see them keeping up with USC's offense and those star-studded receivers. I mean, the speed there, it's just they seem to have it together right now, and Michigan is a program that's going to not be necessarily a rebuild, but a retooling at right now in terms of the phase of where Michigan's at.
Yeah, I just don't see them catching lightning in a bottle a day where this one change in 1 week changes what we've seen so far this season. I don't see it. I see USC just being the team that's running on all cylinders right now early in the year, going in there and handling business today.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, if the conversation next week is all about how Michigan did handle the USC, it's going to kind of be one of those things where it's like, you know what? I might have lost 25 bucks or something because of this, but whatever your wager is or whatever your limit is, but at least, the West Coast team came in and to a Big Ten house and didn't look good and they lost and this is cool. But also, being the homer, I kind of want to see USC look really good for the season to kind of help Notre Dame's chances, which I didn't want to bring up Notre Dame again, but
Yeah, but I mean that's what I'm gonna predict today. I feel pretty confident about it. So
yeah, I'm right there with you. And huge, that's no better way to start off conference play as we're getting into a lot of the conference action this week. Another one to look forward to in terms of a school coming from a different conference over to their new conference, Oklahoma going to play Tennessee today in their first SEC matchup. Uh, this is going to be a very interesting game. I know you're high on the Vols and their offense so far this year. Uh, I'm feeling the Vols big in this game. What are your sentiments?
ding ding ding, we have part two of the weekend riders. I have Tennessee on the points again at Oklahoma. I think Tennessee, we're very early in the season, but I think Tennessee may be one of the best teams in the country. Like, I'm talking top three out there. Just they are kicking the shit out of everyone. And my biggest thing is yes, they're playing more cupcake teams and everything, but even when they play a good team, I still think that offense is going to find a way to put 40 fucking points on the board.
Yeah, I agree with you. Uh, Oklahoma, in terms of defense over past previous years, even like it's had major flaws, and Tennessee being as explosive they've shown to be so far, I feel like they are going to come out there and just kind of steamroll this Oklahoma team today, and it's going to be a very big eye opener for the people there in Sooner Nation. But Ross, I'm kind of getting worried here. Like, if you watch college football on tap and you have seen like the episodes with me and Ross on it together, we are normally not on the same page on a lot of bets. And today we
Yeah,
are totally hook, line, and sinker on things. So I don't know if this is a
yeah.
really good sign or a really bad sign.
Well, we're hoping good sign because these are all on my card so far this week. So
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So I mean, I yeah, I'm shocked to see that this
I
is kind of
I
coming.
just think I just think as the season goes on, we're going to see that Tennessee offense is just so high powered. Nico is so fucking good that I think even when Tennessee starts to get into the heart and the meat of their schedule, it's going to be those boat race games of it's cool. You got a good defense. We're still going to put up 40. So you got to put up 41.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they have been explosive as can be, and Nico has been like, I mean, he's dynamic. I mean, he's been absolutely incredible to watch play so far. Uh, and yeah, I'm with you on this. Tennessee today, Tennessee like might be a team that we're well, it probably is a team that will be watching the college football playoff just the way they've looked. And they could possibly be a team that takes it all with the way that they've come out there to start this season. I mean, I know that's for the bulk of the SEC right now. I think like 7 SEC teams would be in the college football playoff if the season ended today. But so obviously a tough schedule coming ahead. But I think this one, which Oklahoma's ranked 15th, they're ranked 6th. It's going to be Tennessee taking Oklahoma down a couple of notches, and Oklahoma's going to probably have a little bit of a time before they are considered a top tier SEC team for a while, I think.
Hmm.
Um, I was sitting there thinking today because the another big game that we got on the slate today is Utah and Oklahoma State, and those are the top two teams possibly in the Big 12. And I'm just like, man, Oklahoma, you sure like you really wanted to go to the SEC? I mean, you could have just been the kings of the Big 12 for a while and just, gone and rolled and have it that way. But uh, that game today, Utah, Oklahoma State, definitely going to be dependent on what if Cam Rising is playing for Utah. The notorious injured Cam Rising, like he's the guy just can't catch a break.
Yeah. Because and I'm going because of that, and also with where it's at. Coach Gundy, I do have Oklahoma State today. I think this is one of those games where if it was at Utah, I'd take Utah. If it's at Oklahoma State, I'm taking Oklahoma State. It's just the way these teams line up. I think they're very even in talent. I think it just comes down to where's the game being played is going to be the difference maker. And I think it's the fact that whoever's the home team in this game every single year is going to be the team that wins this game.
I honestly, I am the worst in terms of predictions, and when it comes to Big 12 football, I honestly, it was probably most of my losses last season in terms of the bets that I made, and each week, me and Chris were sitting here going, "You need to stop betting the Big 12, dude." Like some of the bets that I lose, I'm like, "How did this team do this?" Like it just made no sense. Um, so I would like to sit there and say, Utah's gonna win this game if Cam Rising plays. I mean, Utah's a dependent they're more dependent on the run game than they are the pass game, even if Rising is playing. It's just Rising is that better of a quarterback who can make those big plays too in the pass game. But in order for Utah to win, they have to establish the run. They have to control the clock. I mean, normal football stuff, but that's Utah's game. They are not this air raid type football, air raid, but it is dependent on if we see Rising out there or not. For me, understand it's a tough crowd to go into. I need home crowd in college football is tough to go into when it's a major school, and I understand your sentiments in terms of Oklahoma State possibly taking this game home just because they are the home team, though.
Yeah, I looked at it in every way I possibly could, and I just think it's going to be as stupid, cut and dry as at home in front of the home fans. Both teams match up really well. I think it's just going to be that's the little edge that pushes it over for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I understand that, and it's going to be an interesting game, man. I think that's going to be one that is going to come down to the wire no matter what, if Cam Rising's playing or not. But when it does come to that style of football that Utah does play, it can get out of hand too quickly and I think that's more likely to happen if they do have the backup quarterback in there. Because last week they started off, they were losing 14-3, I think, to Utah State early, and then they ended up running away with it in the second half. You can't have that kind of start against Oklahoma State because if Oklahoma State's up 14-3 today, Oklahoma State's going to end up running away with it.
Yeah.
Um, what else do we got in terms of major games on the slate today? I think there was one more that I was looking at. No, we already talked Clemson and North Carolina State. I was really big on the NIU Buffalo. I know we started already kind of going into our bets for the week, but any other games that you are looking at before we get into that?
So my weekly weekend rider. Um, I was gonna do four, and I was just stuck between these last two, which one I wanted to include. And then you know what? I said fuck it, and I went with five. So,
Oh,
so this weekend rider, USC -4.5, Tennessee -7, Vanderbilt +19.5 at Mizzou. That Vanderbilt team is very young and fiery and chippy. I think they are going to hold their own against Mizzou and stay in that game. Mizzou will win that game, but I think Vanderbilt is a lot better than they get credit for. Already got a couple big wins to start the year. I think they are going to go in there and they're going to hold their own. I do
is
not
that
see them pushing that. I do not see them pushing a 3 touchdown loss.
is that just because Mizzou burned you last week on Ryder?
No, no. I took Vanderbilt on the points earlier this year against Virginia Tech, where they ended up beating them in overtime. That
Yeah.
team is young, chippy, fiery. I think they're going to go in there and realize that they have a chip on their shoulder again. I don't expect them to pull it outright, but I do think that team is good enough to hang in there, especially with a 19.5 point spread.
Yeah, I mean that's a game that I'm planning on staying away. I mean, I am going to put in your rider myself, but not a game that I had on my card. But I did look at that one closely because I did like what I seen when Vanderbilt played Virginia Tech a couple weeks ago. Vandy's not normally a team that I watch, but I did get a big portion of that game in because it was one of the better games so far of the college football season because it was close. Vandy got out big early. Virginia Tech started to come back, and I think you could chalk a lot of that up to Vanderbilt being a young football team. And Vanderbilt, I didn't think was going to end up pulling that game out in overtime. When Vanderbilt scored the touchdown that ended up putting it in overtime, I said they had to go for two. Like go for two because you're not going to win it in overtime. They went for one, and they did. Um, they did end up getting the win in that one. So I understand going into Mizzou is a tough game, but I could see Vanderbilt covering for sure.
So after that, we're gonna go back to true Big Ten. We're gonna go with a rivalry game. I have Minnesota the +2.5 at home against Iowa today in the battle for the pig.
All right. All right.
The Minnesota. I've actually been to this game before. I've
Okay.
actually stormed the field against Iowa at Minnesota. People get pumped for this game. That is a big thing there. And as always, I'm not impressed with Iowa. I'm not impressed. I think the fact it's a rivalry game at home for Minnesota. I think that Minnesota team is just always chippy as it is every single year. I like them at home getting those points.
Yeah, I honestly did not know that this was really considered that big of a football game between these two. Never really crossed my mind as like a huge rivalry, so that's interesting to kind of note there, and it makes that game because I mean I was looking at the night slate and uh, I didn't know what was going to take my second TV for it, so good chance that I will possibly be looking into that one because yeah, it is a close point spread. Um, I haven't been impressed by Iowa either, but I not a game that I was wanted to get into just because I really just never understand Minnesota and PJ Flex football teams. It's just they sometimes start looking like they're going to be this juggernaut of a football team, and then they'll be like 5-0, and then they finish the season 6-6.
So this will round out our rider card. The one I was having trouble with was picking the Minnesota versus this game. And then finally I decided, you know what? I really believe these things are both going to happen. So let's just ride with them because we're only going to make more money when they happen, right? Um,
That's the
I
goal.
have I have BYU +7 at home tonight against Kansas State. Weird
Yeah.
shit happens at BYU. I think BYU is just going to hold their own because they're home. That is one of the staple games on their schedule this year. And Kansas State is just weird. I just don't. I can't figure them out. You know, they're right in the middle of the pack at 13. I can't number 13. I can't figure them out yet. And that's just one of those lines that I'm seeing BYU get a touchdown at home tonight hosting Kansas State. That felt really good to me. Like, these are those games that BYU just stereotypically every year seems to hang in there and put a fight on.
Yeah, I do. BYU, the team that I like to bet for some reason. They just stick out a lot of the time, and I think it's literally because they do just contend. They compete in every game. That game is a 9:30 game tonight, at least our time. Um, that's gonna be one that you're gonna have to stay up until 1 a.m. to see who the winner is. Uh, which is always fun if you're a late night person. So I don't think I'll be up throughout the end of it, but it will be a very good football game, I think. BYU +7 at home, though. They are undefeated so far. Kansas State obviously is at rank 13. I think BYU +7 is a good looking bet for tonight. I did not
So
have it
that
on my card, but I
so
definitely
that
feel it.
that rounds out our weekly rider. So that is USC -4.5, Tennessee -7, Vanderbilt +19.5, Minnesota +2.5, and BYU +7. That I locked that in this morning. I got +2471 and threw 5 on it for fun, which brings us to about $130 on your $5 when it hits.
uh, I I am gonna put that in. I actually, if like, there's games that you have that I was gonna stay away from in general, but I am feeling I would be on the side that you were on with every single one of them. Last week I put it in despite me and you being on the opposite ends of the fence with the Mizzou and Boston College game, um, which I ended up winning money with that one too, so that worked out. But
Yep.
but I am with you on every single one of those picks. I really like that today. We'll see if that ends up being my main boosted parlay that I get from DraftKings. And Marcus likes it too. Marcus is here for the betting advice. He talks to me all week at work about it. So, um, appreciate you watching the show, Marcus, today. All right, I'll get into my card a little bit here as well. Um, I tweeted out this morning that I kind of thought that when I first was looking into everything yesterday, I was just like, man, there's not a lot out there that I'm really liking. Like, I'm probably gonna have a very weak card. And then I got up early this morning and just ran through games for about an hour and a half and looked through what games I really liked and picks. And I was like, wow, I found a lot of bets. That I ended up liking. First one we already talked about, North Carolina State +18 with Clemson. That's on your card. I was putting that in as well. It just seems like a large number. I wish, like you said, you got it at 21 or you saw it at 21 earlier in the week. I wish I would have seen it at that number. I always say to myself, I should put these bets in on Monday or Tuesday and never do it. But +18 still a large number. Like I said, North Carolina State might win. I could see them winning that one outright somehow, but we'll see how that goes. Another one I got, James Madison +10.5 against North Carolina. North Carolina is starting their third quarterback of the season today. Um, and James Madison, really good football team for the last few years. We talked about them a lot on this show last season. They're off to a good start again, starting off undefeated. Um, they put together a good football team every single year. I think 10's a big number. 10.5 is a nice number. So I took James Madison at +10.5. Um, I'm looking at this Kansas West Virginia game. I think that's going to be a very interesting game to watch. Uh, Kansas not off to the start that we thought they would get off to. They ended up losing to the Illini early on in the season, and I think they got another loss in their last week. but I think that they're going to right the ship here this week. I know it is at West Virginia, but I think there's a difference when you play West Virginia at night compared to when you play West Virginia at day and during the day there. So I took Kansas on the money line. Um, I like Daniels. I think he's thrown 6 interceptions this year, which isn't great, but hopefully he gets that together because he was very dynamic last year as a player for that team. Um, Another interesting one that you might not expect for me to kind of have on my card, but uh, option style football here. We're going to go with one of our armed forces here. We are taking the Army today, -7 versus Rice. Army has come out there so far, and they are playing really good defense. Uh, just hitting people in the mouth. They've won their first 2 games 42-7 and 24-7. They aren't letting teams score. They play option style football, scoring touchdowns, doing what they do. Rice is not a strong football school. They're starting off the year 0-2. They haven't looked good in terms of those losses either. So I'm going to take Army today -7. Um, Another one, we got a ranked school in Iowa State playing Arkansas State today. Arkansas State kind of made Michigan look even more iffy, which kind of influenced my picks in terms of USC today. So Arkansas State +21 lost to Michigan by 10 last week. So
I did actually put that in as as a separate bet on its own. That I think Arkansas State is going to hold their own there and keep it closer.
yeah, I just uh like you were mentioning like you don't find Iowa to be impressive. I obviously haven't either. We saw Iowa State and Iowa play uh already when Iowa State got that victory to become a ranked team, but uh they're it's just something about the football in Iowa. There's not a lot of points scored there, no matter who you are. So 21's a lot. Arkansas State was able to hold their own versus Michigan, and I think if we saw Iowa State versus Michigan, Michigan would still beat Iowa State at this point. So I think Arkansas State definitely holds their own. So I'll take them at +21. Last week I bet Virginia to win money line. They didn't win. Um, so this isn't a pick because I'm spiting them, but Coastal Carolina, they've been another school that has made traction playing college football over the last few years. People know who they are. They constantly are putting together 10-win plus seasons. Coastal Carolina is getting 3.5 today. And I believe that is at Coastal Carolina. I can't remember if it was them or the James Madison game where they were getting the home game. But I think Coastal Carolina is the home team in this one, getting 3.5 points. So I took that one today. Already talked to USC, got that at -4. TCU at SMU. That's going to be an interesting matchup in the Battle of Texas schools. SMU trying to get on the rise here, joining the Big 12 this year. If Yeah, they joined the Big 12 this year. Still trying to get used to all these conference realignments, but conference game TCU -2 today. It is at SMU, I believe, but I still think TCU is 2 years removed from national championship game. Last year they were a lot younger, didn't have the best of seasons, but so far what I've seen out of the TCU team, they're on the up and up, I think, in terms of the program. Uh, SMU thinks they're getting there, but they haven't looked as impressive so far. So I'm going to take SMU or TCU -2. Uh, Cal versus Florida State today. Florida State 0-3. Cal coming in 3-0. Cal coming in as the underdogs. I'm going to take Cal money line here. I don't believe in anything Florida State is doing right now, so I'm going to take Cal money line. Uh, and then we got Toledo today. Already mentioned them -2.5 against Western Kentucky. And last but not least, Oregon State -3 versus Purdue. We saw what Notre Dame did to Purdue last week. I know Oregon State did not have the best of showings against Oregon, but Oregon State at least hung around in the first half for a little bit there. Uh, Oregon State -3 at home. I think that's a pretty good pick with what we've seen for Purdue last week.
Yeah, I think that one's safe.
So Yeah, that's I'll post all these. I'll post all these on my Twitter page, and we'll repost them to the college football page as well, and kind of share along. Um, just to kind of go with that little idea that I was telling you earlier about taking these money lines and just parlaying them into making some big money. The three teams that I was looking at to put it together today, and that I am probably going to do, I am going to take the North Carolina State money line. I'm going to take the James Madison money line, and I was going to combine it with the Coastal Carolina money line. So take those three teams on the money line for $10. I don't know what the total is going to be, but I could guarantee it's going to be pretty high. That was what I was looking into in terms of making this the first time that I make a bet of that kind of structure. So we'll see if that works out, and maybe I'm rich come next week.
All right.
You got any last thoughts? Any more final bets? Anything that's coming to your mind before we get into this action? We're about we're a little under an hour away from action here today with the 11 a.m. slate.
Not really. I'm ready to get all these in. We're gonna enjoy another week of great college football. And what was your last pick on that? I'm riding with you. I'm putting the card together to get we had Coastal Carolina and North Carolina State.
And James Madison, Coastal Carolina, James Madison, North Carolina State.
Let's see. What are we tying up here?
We're trying to get the number here to see how much we could win.
Well, I'm going in right now with you. North Carolina State money line, Coastal Carolina money line, and James Madison on the points, which now you can get them at 11. Pay is a 30 to 1.
You took them with the points because I was going to money line James Madison as well.
Well, I took it on the points, and it ended up still getting already to 30 to 1.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna bet it on the points, but I'm also going to bet that money line spread, but 30 to 1 already with the points.
You're probably getting 50, you're probably getting about 60 or 70 to 1 on that when it jumps.
So I'll put that in. I'll get the final number. Take a look out on my Twitter page, my little hashtag here in the little bottom corner. There it is. That's how you do it. All right. But that's our page, our Twitter page as well as college football _on tap. You can find all of our betting advice and all of our thoughts throughout the day on there. And we'll repost a lot of the bigger clips throughout the day. So with that, I hope everybody wins a lot of money, whether it be today on college football or tomorrow on the NFL. And my last words will be go Huskies, go Irish, and bear down.
Let's go.
Bye, everyone.